Stocks closed mixed on Wall Street. The Dow and S&P 500 correct, but a post-earnings rally in Microsoft leads the Nasdaq higher. An earnings beat and better than expected guidance also sees shares of Meta surge over 12% after hours. Asian markets opened largely lower. The SGX Nifty 2 signals a negative start for the Indian market. Crude prices slip over 4%. Brent trades around $78 a barrel despite a larger than expected drawdown in U.S. inventories, even as persistent recession fears cloud the demand outlook. And the cabinet approves a new medical devices policy, aims to boost India's share in the global medical devices market from the current 1.5% to over 10% within a decade and help the sector grow to $50 billion in 5 years. Bajaj Finance delivers a steady fourth quarter with healthy return ratios, even as interest margin contracts on expected lines. HDFC Life reports an in-line set, but commentary for FY24 remains cautious, while BNB margin expansion helps SBI Life put up a strong show. In key earnings to track today, FMCG major HUL is seen delivering expansion in margin and 5 to 6% volume growth. Muted revenue growth is expected from Wipro and Tech Mahindra, while provisions for the Citi acquisition are likely to weigh down Axis Bank. The lender may see a loss-making quarter. Hi, good morning and welcome to Power Breakfast. I'm Pavitra. Those are all of the top headlines that we have for you. There's lots going on in terms of numbers that have come out. So let's talk about all of that. A lot of big earnings came through in the US, and there's lots of stock-specific action as well that really weighed down on the market. And on the back of that, we did get quite a weak handover. Asia is opening on the back foot, largely lower there, but the losses are not too steep. So you're seeing between 0.2% to 0.3% in terms of a loss. Indices like the Taiwan have recovered now to trade absolutely flat. Hang Seng just around 0.2% lower. Bots perhaps looking the worst this morning is the Nikkei market with a 90-point cut. So that one is seeing a bit of a cut. The rest of the markets also, whether you look at Straits, Shanghai, Kospi, all of them seeing just a minor red tick right now. So it is starting off a little bit muted, but let's see how the day progresses from here. The SGX Nifty will be up for you, and it is indicating that the start for our own markets might perhaps be a little bit negative. 33 points lower is what we have right now. So that's what's happening across Asia. But let's talk about the US markets as well. We had Wall Street, which ended yesterday's trading session lower. So it was actually quite mixed. The Dow was down around 220 points. The S&P 500 slid around 0.4%. And what really weighed on the market was the entire banking crisis and worries about that, because you had shares of First Republic, which slipped around 30% once more. This is after the kind of fall that we'd seen on Monday, right? So that is what is really weighing on sentiment. However, following earnings beat from tech giants like Alphabet and Microsoft, the Nasdaq Composite did manage to rise around 0.5% at the close. In fact, staying with the US market, another tech giant that reported its earnings, and this is an after hours, was Meta. So the stock jumped 12% in extended trading after the company reported an unexpected increase in revenue for the first quarter. Now remember, this comes after 3 straight periods of decline in the company's performance for the quarters gone by. The company's forecast for the second quarter was also something that exceeded expectations, and of course the street liked, and reports now say that Meta expects a revenue between $29.5 to $32 billion. This is for the second quarter, while analysts were expecting around $29.5 billion. So that has also been expanded a little bit, which is obviously, aided the up move that we've seen in extended trade. So that's what's happening in the US markets. But let's also bring you some commentary on the market and how the Fed could really move. This is from Jill Carey Hall of BofA Securities, as well as Elise Ossenbaugh of JP Morgan Private Bank.
We are expecting a mild one. I think, for small caps, we did get tactically cautious in mid-March amid everything going on with some of the regional banks. Small caps do have more credit sensitivity. They do have more exposure to banks. So for the near term, we've been cautious. But I think if, we avoid a major credit crisis and we see more of the mild recession that we're expecting, then I think the longer term case for small caps is still intact. They're, bigger beneficiaries of CapEx spending staying resilient. They're bigger beneficiaries of services spending staying more resilient than goods spending.
The market is expecting May to be the last Fed rate hike. That, too, is our base case. But I think at this point, people are understanding kind of the uncertainty premium that comes with the Fed right now. But all in all, when we look at the confluence of data, we do think that the Fed is getting closer and closer to that moment where they, too, will feel comfortable pausing.
All right, so that is some important market opinion that we are tracking. But with that, let's also bring you all of the cues that you should watch as we get into this trading session. We have our research team here with the trade setup. Rima, Nigel and Surbi all join us now to prep us up for this trading session. Guys, a very good morning to all of you. And Rima, let me come to you first for the market setup. We were going through the global cues, a little bit negative, at least in terms of what we've got for a handover. But take us through everything we should watch.
Well, you know, today is the April series expiry, so that's going to be very, very crucial. And plus, we've got so many domestic factors to react to. So yes, top down, there is a bit of a subdued start. Asian markets are trading in the red, but the fall in crude prices on the sidelines may also be fairly supportive. Crude prices are now down to $78 per barrel. Now, the question is, yesterday, we managed to conquer 17,800. We did dither a bit around those levels, but can the Nifty now take out the recent high levels of 17,863? In terms of flows yesterday, net institutional, there was a buy figure of nearly 1,000 crore. The DII sold 228 crore in the cash market, but the FIIs bought 1,257 crore. In fact, the FIIs bought for the first time in the last 7 trading sessions. In terms of the results, largely in line. There were no big outliers on either side. So Bajaj Finance, HDFC Life, L&T Tech, Voltas, UTI AMC are all inline set of numbers. Syngene, SBI Life, you can say were a good, it's a good quarter, but it's not something that can blow the lights out in terms of, the stock price performance. Results today, lots to watch. Axis Bank, HUL, and HUL's commentary, particularly about rural demand, will be very crucial because it sets the stage for companies like Marico, Dabur, and what they are likely to report. Bajaj Finserv, Wipro, Tech Mahindra, LTI, Mindtree, ACC, Shriram Finance, Coforge, Loris Lab, Trent, Emphasis. So lots of, large and mid-cap earnings to track. So top down, a bit negative to begin trade with. But today is the expiry session. And can the markets sustain the up move that we've seen in the last couple of days and take out that recent high of 17,863? That will be quite critical. Back to you.
All right, that is the big question. So let's see how the session moves from here. Rima, thanks a lot for getting us all of those cues. But let's also talk about the individual stocks that you should watch. Surbi is here with that entire list. Hi, Surbi.
Thanks so much for that. So I have quite a few earnings on my radar today. The first one is Bajaj Finance, where it was largely a stable quarter. The net interest margin compresses marginally, but that was on expected lines. The net interest income is up 28% and PAT is up nearly 31%. Next is HDFC Life, strong quarter from them. APE and VNB both up nearly 69% and VNB margins were stable at 29%. SBI Life, the APE is up 10%, VNB is up 23% and VNB margins have come in higher at close to 32% versus 28% same time last year. Syngene, the revenue is up 31% and margins have come in at 32%. Next is UTI AMC, the revenue is up 2%, the operating profit is up 5% and the revenue yield is also higher at close to 50 basis points versus 49 basis points in the last quarter. Apart from that, City Union Bank is also on my radar as RBI approves reappointment of N. Kamakodi as MD and CEO for 3 years. And lastly, Cabinet approves National Medical Devices Policy. So that's positive for the likes of Polymedicure and Tarsans. Apart from that, we'll also be watching out for HUL, Loris Labs, Wipro and TechM. They'll all be coming out with their numbers today.
All right, Surbi, thanks a lot for getting us all of those individual stock-specific action as well. But with that, let's also talk about Coforge because that has also come out with its earnings right now. Dollar revenue growth at 5%. This is pretty much in line with what was expected. Our poll threw up a number of 4.9%, so it's pretty much in line over there. The net profit has come in at 104 crores. This is below estimates, but remember, there is a one-time loss of 52.3 crores. This is with respect to non-execution of share offering in the US. There has been quite a miss on the margin front. What was expected was around 16%. It's come in closer to around 10.7% on the margin front. This is the EBIT margin that I'm talking about. So that is something that perhaps we will, watch for. The Coforge guidance is also up. They're seeing constant currency revenue growth at 13 to 16%, also guiding for margin expansion of 50 basis points. So that's on Coforge. But with that, let's also move on and talk about all of the cues from the futures and options space because it is really the expiry day today and it's going to be a lot about that. Nigel, what are you tracking?
Well, morning, Pavitra. Buy on dips has been working, so I guess you stick to that. Today, as you said, is expiry day, so expect heightened volatility, particularly in the second half of trade. It's been a good series, mind you. The Nifty as well as the Nifty Bank, they're up between 4 to around 7%. Let's run you through the cues, though. The FIs in the F&O market, well, they added longs, But yesterday they added almost equivalent longs as well as shorts. But keep in mind, from the start of the series, the short positioning is down from around 91% to around 53% or thereabouts. They're buying options as well. So in case things go wrong, there's a bit of a scare in the United States with regard to the banking crisis. So it appears they're positioning themselves some cushion on the downside. So they're buying some protection. That's why they bought some puts. What's encouraging, though, is the way they're writing puts. Even in yesterday's trading session, they wrote close to around 12 puts for every one call. That's giving you a bit of an understanding that going by the options data, it's still pretty much a buy on dips market. Let's focus on a couple of strikes then. We have the 17,800 and 17,700 put. Between them, there's a fair bit of open interest. Watch for those levels on the screen. So that's where the writing is taking place. But let's pull up the next plate. We have the levels that you should be watching. The Exchange Nifty, for starters, is indicating a pullback.
All right, a bit of a pullback that is on the SGX Nifty. For now, it's around 34 points lower, but let's see how we move from here. Nigel, thanks a lot for getting us all of those cues. With that, we are going to get into a short break in the show, but when we return, we have some big earnings that came through. Bajaj Finance reported a stable fourth quarter, and companies like Axis Bank, Wipro are all set to post earnings today. We'll get you all that you need to know when we come back. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast, and let's now talk about the big earnings that came through. Bajaj Finance reported fourth quarter numbers yesterday, so Abhishek is here with the fine print. Abhishek, like you said, looks pretty stable.
It looks pretty stable and much better than what the polls suggested, especially in terms of NII. So NII growth was 28% YOY and about 4.5% sequentially. That has translated into operating profit growth as well, growing at 29% YOY and about 5.5% sequentially. Provisions remained under control, and that is why you saw the PAT beating our poll. In terms of asset quality, the gross NPA ratio and net NPA ratio both have improved on a sequential basis. And in the con call, the management has highlighted that they will see a net interest margin compression in FY24 by about 40 to 50 basis points. However, the growth guidance has been increased. So for FY24, they now see AUM growth of 28 to 29% versus 26 to 27% that they had guided earlier. So that will minimize the impact on return ratios. Back to you.
All right, Abhishek, thanks a lot for taking us through all of those numbers from Bajaj Finance. But actually stay with us because Axis Bank is also due to report fourth quarter earnings later today. Tell us what we can expect, because there's also that entire Citi acquisition that will play out, right?
Yes, Pavitra, as you mentioned, there will be a lot of one-offs in Q4 due to Citi's retail business of India that has been acquired by Axis Bank. So NII growth on a YOY basis at about 35% could be one of the best in last 8 years. However, on a sequential basis, you can expect a 10 basis point decline in net interest margin as per Phillip Capital. Now, they are estimating, that is Phillip Capital is estimating loan growth of about 15.3% YOY and about 7% sequentially. This is along with the Citi book that is there. Total watch list is about 0.93% of the loans. How that will move will be seen closely. Phillip Capital is expecting improvement in asset quality. Gross NPA to be at 2.2% when compared to 2.4% in the previous quarter. They are expecting slippages of 4,000 crore versus 3,800 crore in the previous quarter. There will be one-off provision in this quarter with respect to Citi of about 11,600 crores. So management commentary with respect to growth and outlook will be seen closely. Our polls suggest NII growth of 35.3% YOY and about 4.1% sequentially. We are working with a net loss of 5,740 crore, and that is on account of the provision to be made on account of acquisition of Citi's business. Back to you.
Okay, Abhishek, thanks a lot for running us through all of those estimates. That is for Axis Bank. But let's move from banks to big tech now. IT major Wipro will also be reporting its fourth quarter numbers after market hours. So Rima is joining us with the key expectations. Rima, the last of the big tech earnings coming through today with Wipro and Tech Mahindra. But tell us what to expect from Wipro.
A muted quarter, a dollar revenue growth seen up 1%, but constant currency revenue growth will actually possibly decline or maybe come in flat. This will be within the company's guidance of -0.6 to +1%. EBIT margins are seen flat but with a positive bias, so our consensus is throwing up margins of 16.2% and expansion of 20 basis points. The key will be the Q1 FY24 guidance, the guidance for the next quarter. Now, most analysts are expecting the company to guide from -1 to +1%. Ambit, CLSA, Kotak, all of them are penciling that as the guidance, -1 to +1. Though there is Nomura, which expects a growth slightly better, 0 to 2%. The key will be the impact of the exposure to companies like SVB, Silvergate, Signature Bank, Credit Suisse. The company has an aspiration to hit margins of 17% plus. Currently, they're at 16%. So what's the glide path to achieve those margins? Also, the company has a very high exposure to consulting, and consulting typically gets hit when the times are rough and companies want to conserve cash. And also deal wins. Now, last quarter, the company had very strong deal wins of $1 billion. Is that something which will sustain in the current quarter, or is it tapering off? Will be watched closely. Back to you.
All right, those are all of the estimates for Wipro. Rima, thanks a lot for that. But another important story that we're tracking, the Union Cabinet has approved the medical devices policy, which aims to now increase India's share in the global medical devices market from the current 1.5% to over 10%. This is all targeted within the next decade. So we have Parikshit here with all of the details on this one. Parikshit.
Well, the Department of Pharmaceuticals in the government had circulated a draft note in 2022, and now this has received cabinet approval. Why is this important? Well, the centre expects medical device sector to grow from $11 billion currently to $50 billion by 2025. What does the policy really intend to do? For the moment, this is a statement of intent, and there is no financial outlay as such, but it does lay a framework for enabling policy. The policy envisages India to become home to 25 high-end futuristic technologies in medtech and a medtech industry of $100 to $300 billion size with 10 to 12% global market share over the next few years. The policy talks about the need for fiscal support, continued fiscal support through PLI schemes, increased focus on R&D and infrastructure development. As per the policy, India could have a few national institutes of medical devices in education and research. The government is keen to promote manufacturing of implants, IVD reagents, surgical instruments, electronic equipments and consumables. The policy also talks about using FTAs as an instrument to increase medical device exports from India.
All right, Pariksha, thanks a lot for that. So big push coming through for the medical devices industry in India. But with that, it is time for another short break on the show. When we come back, we're going to shift focus and talk all about commodities. Once again, a big drop in crude prices. So we'll tell you what's going on. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast, and let's talk about the world of commodities because there's a lot going on specifically with crude prices. So Manisha is here to fill us in. Manisha, this week already, what does the decline look like? It's what, 6-7%?
Oh, it is, yes. 4% down last week and 6% down in 2 sessions and 7.5% down in this week. So that's exactly how the chart is looking like. And not just crude oil prices, the gasoline is trading at a 4-week low. The heating oil prices at the lowest since Jan 2022. There are slowdown fears now coming in from U.S. as the U.S. consumer confidence data is at the lowest in 9 months. The U.S. manufactured capital goods also fell in the month of March. And then there is increase in Russia's exports that have dulled the impact of OPEC output cuts. When you look at the Indian markets itself, the OPEC share of Indian oil imports is the lowest in 22 years. That's the kind of crude oil that we are importing from Russia right now. And then the markets also are watching out for the US Fed meeting. That's on May 2nd and 3rd. You also have the Bank of England, ECB meetings coming into the next week itself. And the rate hike concerns is what's weighing onto the prices. So further declines not ruled out. We have both the crude varieties right now trading below $80 a barrel, with markets anticipating another couple of dollars of decline from here.
All All right, Manisha, thanks a lot for getting us all of those details on the crude markets. Clearly, there's a lot going on there as well. But with that, here's a quick look at the national headlines that we are tracking. 10 policemen of the District Reserve Guard and a driver were killed in an improvised explosive device blast in Chhattisgarh's Dantewada region. The blast was allegedly carried out by Maoists and left a big crater that covers the road's width. The DRG team was returning from an anti-Maoist operation when the attack reportedly took place. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel, as well as Home Minister Amit Shah have expressed their condolences. The Home Minister also assured the Chhattisgarh state government of all possible help. All right, that is some very unfortunate news coming in, and some more important updates that we're tracking. 3 months after prominent Indian wrestlers launched a protest against WFI President and BJP MP Brij Bhushan Singh over sexual harassment allegations, the Delhi police has told the Supreme Court on Wednesday that they need to conduct a preliminary inquiry before filing an FIR against Bhushan. So the top court will next hear the case on Friday, that is tomorrow. That is what we're tracking from this case. We will keep bringing you the updates there as well. And finally, one last update that we're tracking on the national front. On the 5th day of the hearing concerning pleas seeking marriage rights for same-sex couples, the Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, told Solicitor General Tushar Mehta that he cannot rely on the U.S. Supreme Court ruling which took away abortion rights to argue judicial restraint. He said that India has gone far beyond that already. He added that the theory of a woman having no control over bodily integrity has been debunked in India a long time ago. Meanwhile, the union government has continued to emphasize that the state cannot be compelled to create a new definition of marriage to uphold the right to marry, further urging the court not to proceed with the hearing and leave the matter to the parliament. The hearing has been deferred now to the 28th of April, so that is an ongoing case as well, and we will tell you as that proceeds on, all of the developments that come through. With that, we're going to have to wind down on this edition of Power Breakfast with the news that most Asian markets are still in the red, seeing cuts of around 0.25% to 0.4% there. The SGX Nifty 28 points lower. Thanks for tuning in. We have Bazaar after this short break.